Hey guys, welcome to A Grain of Salt. And today is a special day because we get to talk about Star Wars The Last Jedi. And before we get right into it, I just want to say this trailer continues the masterful art of not telling the whole fucking movie within the trailer. I love how the previous Star Wars trailers for episode 7 also didn't do that. They just showed quick random out of context clips, and that's a lot of what we get here too. Obviously there's a little bit more context because we have a movie now to base it off of, but it did a good job at not explaining anything or at least not much, so I like that. But let's get right into it here. Now, I thought it was interesting that to start the trailer off, they chose to do the same thing that they did with episode 7, which is like a jump scare introduction of a major character. So in this case, it's Rey putting her hand down on a rock, and it's just like this intense reveal, like, holy shit, Rey came out of a vision or something, right? So that's what I think happened there, by the way, is I think she had a vision, she saw some crazy shit go down, and that's what that scene is as far as I can tell, right? Then the next scene cuts to flying over an ocean as we hear Luke say, breathe, just breathe, and we all assume he's training Rey. So Rey is probably now training with Luke. So next, there's some talk about the light side and the dark side. There's also like a camera moving in on a character that looks a lot like Leia. So hopefully she's confirmed to be in this movie. So of course, rip Carrie Fisher, but she did film some scenes here, and that looked like her from the back, at least with a slightly new hairdo.
Light.
And we also hear Leia saying, help me, Obi-Wan. We'll see where that leads. And we cut to Kylo's shattered mask, and it's kind of the same thing. We hear seduced by the dark side in the background.
Darkness.
And then it's interesting because the next scene, we hear Yoda saying something, and this was really hard to make out. I'm not even sure if this is right or not, but it seems like Yoda saying, you must train to become a Jedi. So I'm not sure if that's actually what's being said there. That would make sense. But the cool thing is, this is where I think the major plot of the movie is introduced, and that is the balance. So between the light and the dark, which I want to talk about right after we get through this, because I think that's going to be a fantastic plot for this movie that I think reflects very well on real life right now.
A balance.
And with Luke training Rey, I want to assume, my theory is that he's kind of like a gray Jedi, and maybe he's trying to train her to become one too. So a gray Jedi, for those of you who don't know, is just someone that uses the Force and walks right down the middle, doesn't get seduced by the dark side, doesn't get brainwashed by the Jedi, and they just kind of borrow from both, but they're not on one extreme or the other. So they're kind of like centrist Jedis. And we hear Luke again saying it's so much bigger than the light side and the dark side.
It's so much bigger.
So right after they talk about the light side and the dark side, he says it's so much bigger. So again, think we're talking about the balance here. And this next scene reminds me a lot of the first movie, The Phantom Menace, which just brings back bad memories. But anyways, there was some cool stuff like the pod racing, and the next scene actually reminded me of the pod racing a bit. And we see these new ships that I haven't seen before, and they're headed towards what seems to be like AT-ATs, but they're probably not AT-ATs because they're not the Empire anymore. It's the First Order. So it's probably a spin on the AT-AT. It's probably a bigger, badder, more damaging, more destructive machine. But we see them heading towards that. So that's cool. And there's some fantastic imagery there. I love deserts. I love the cinematography they used there, so can't wait for more of that in this movie. We also see Phasma again. Hopefully Captain Phasma isn't a complete bitch this time around and actually does something. She obviously didn't die in the trash compactor, but I hope to God she has a better scene than what she did in The Force Awakens. Like, she needs to become badass. I think last movie, that was my only real disappointment with it, is that Captain Phasma was just a complete pushover. So hopefully she comes back on a mission to fuck shit up. There's also that scene again with Luke and R2-D2, which might be his Jedi temple where he was training the kids, where he lost some of them to the dark side, and then his wife got murdered. That whole thing will probably be explained in this movie as well, but we see some of that, I think. And then, the biggest, baddest moment of this trailer, we hear Luke saying something along the lines of, "I only know one truth. The Jedi must end." And with that, we cut to epic, tear-inducing fucking music, which, again, I'm so excited for the soundtrack of this movie. So epic. The cutscene, the last thing with the title and the music playing, that was just orgasmic. I love that.
It's time for the Jedi to end.
I love that. And there's rumors going around that might not be Luke saying that. It's Luke. You can, unless the character you see there in the cave is not Luke, then it's Luke, because you can clearly see his lips saying the words.
To end.
So what do I think is going to happen in this movie? Here's my prediction. Let's start with Luke and Rey. I think Luke is a gray Jedi. He's trying to train Rey to not be on one or the other side, to also walk the line between a Jedi and the dark side. So that should be interesting. I think Kylo, I don't know if we're going to see the Knights of Ren or what that's all about. It's so hard to tell right now whether he's going to go full badass or if he's going to go soft. I think he's on a redemption arc, but we'll see. I hope we learn a lot more about the Knights of Ren, though. That would be cool. I think, though, the main plot of this movie is going to be a reflection of our current political state, where it's all in extremes. Either you're left or you're right, and everyone that's on the right side is a fascist Nazi, and everyone that's on the left side is a libtard, libcuck, liberal, whatever, right? SJW. There's no one in the middle anymore. And it's just a whole bunch of shit right now. And I think the movie is kind of a reflection on that. You got like the light side and the dark side, and they hate each other, and they're both honestly batshit crazy. So the answer always seems to be somewhere in the middle. And I think that's kind of where Luke is going with this. But we also don't know much about Luke's mental state and how crazy he is right now or how not crazy he is. So that should be interesting. The nice thing too is this feels way different than The Force Awakens, and it doesn't feel like Empire either. So The Force Awakens seemed to be like that safe bet, kind of like a New Hope feeling. And now they're going on their new storyline, their new path. So I hope that this doesn't feel like Empire. From the trailer, it doesn't. So I think this is going to be a very unique Star Wars film, and it's going to carry the series forward and not retread on past movies. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyways, guys, what do you think? What rumors have you heard? What are your predictions? Let me know in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for listening, and remember, take everything with a grain of salt. Thanks, guys.